Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before we begin today, next week we will kick off our next week special, with a week dedicated to Abaddon the Despoiler. The big bad of chaos is obviously making a bit of a splash right now, so I thought it'd only be right to dedicate some time to the man himself. So next week we will be talking the Despoiler. But with that said, on to today. And today we discuss the curse of the Raven Guard. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. And with that said, let's just jump straight in. The Raven Guard are a somber chapter, immersed in shadow. Undoubtedly, of all the remaining first founding chapters, the most unknown by the wider Imperium. This is of course an indelible part of their nature, inherited from their Primarch Corax, the Raven Lord, the Master of the Ambush, one of the most lethal Primarch warriors. However, for all the positive aspects of Corax's legacy, the Raven Guard of the Grim Dark universe are still dealing with the negative. Some so surreal you could legitimately wonder if they're cursed. Corax's tale within the heresy is well known. Seeing his legion virtually destroyed at Istvan, powerless to stop it, he went to his father for aid and received secrets no other Primarchs had been blessed with. A remarkable show of trust. With that, Corax intended to save his legion, to increase the speed with which Marines could be replaced, returning the Raven Guard to the front lines quicker. However, as we know, this was sabotaged by the Alpha Legion. Legends state he will depart his chapter for the Eye of Terror, consumed by grief for the monsters he created. And while I'm of the mind this may play out a little differently than we expect, given Corax's already vastly expanded story, at present this is the story we know. The legend states within the Ravenspire, the fortress monastery of the Raven Guard, Corax would lock himself away within the Eyrie, the tallest tower of the fortress, the Primarch's personal quarters. For a full year the Primarch would not be seen, and the Raven Guard Codex reveals the Primarch was wild by the time he emerged, broken by grief and guilt. He would abandon his chapter for the Eye of Terror, determined to find absolution. And this, if possible, is where things take an even darker, more mysterious turn. The Eyrie, since Corax's departure from the chapter, has been placed behind a stasis field. Over the many years, this has only ever been broken by the masters of the chapter, and it's said only the bravest at that. The chapter masters have entered the Eyrie, hoping to commune with the spirit of the Primarch. And as impossible as it may sound, the halls of the tower do feel possessed, as if some semblance of the Raven Lord remains. Now, of what transpires within the tower once entered, no chapter master that's entered has ever dared speak. All we know is Corax's main chamber is covered in scattered parchments, his raving thoughts covering the pages, becoming increasingly mad and indecipherable. However, there is a tease. The masters do emerge with some form of revelation, some measure of guidance gained. So, is it possible? Does some form of the Primarch spirit still haunt the halls of the Eyrie? locked away behind the stasis field. Well, stranger things have happened. We know the Primarchs are all psychic to one degree or another, whether they have a clear skill or talent or not. It appears they all have some prowess in that regard, even if it's as simple as being resistant to the powers of the warp, or being able to sense the presence of a brother. Could it be possible that some psychic imprint or echo of Corax has been left? That through whatever mental strain or struggle the Primarch went through during his year of isolation, it somehow left its mark on the very walls around it? Well, I think the answer is yes. We have seen by this point in the heresy that Corax had become aware of the warp nature within the Primarchs. We have seen in later years within the Eye of Terror, he has embraced it to the point he's able to transform into darkness and shadow, something more akin to a monster than a Primarch. Even before all this, within the days of the Crusade, he had the psychic ability to make people essentially not see him, meaning Corax always had a strong psychic imprint, and something that only grew over time. With the mental strain and, dare I say, trauma that Corax went through within the Eyrie, I think it's absolutely possible that something broke off, that something was left behind, was imprinted on the atmosphere he inhabited. Maybe not a walking, talking shard of the Primarch, but definitely an emotional imprint. The guilt, the dread. We will see the psychic backlash Sanguinius's death will have on his sons. We've seen it to a lesser degree with the White Scars. This wouldn't really be all that different. And I think it is all entirely possible. It absolutely makes me want to read some stories of Ravengard chapter masters stalking those silent, dust-filled walls. The scribbled parchments of Corax scattered everywhere, with this foreboding emotion just weighing everything down. Oh, what a story that would be. But if you thought that was all, well, you were wrong, as there's another mystery deep within the darkened halls of the Ravengard. This one, rather in stasis within its tallest spire, is buried deep beneath the fortress monastery. Within the bowels of the ancient mining tunnels lies the forbidden Apothecarion. The Apothecarion of the Legion, the site of Corax's failed experimentations. Ordered, abandoned and sealed by the Primarch himself, its contents were cleansed by fire, and just like the spire above, the chapter since have never walked within its sealed doors, this not left in reverence, but instead as a mausoleum. And here too, the signs of the Primarch's psychic struggle remain. It's said that behind these sealed doors, creatures of the warp emerge, fueled by the lingering emotions of hurt and betrayal. The Ravengard Codex supplement tells us that once a year at a time known as Far Moon Night, the veterans of the First Company are stationed to guard the abandoned Apothecarion's doors. For upon this night, the cries of beasts emerge from within. This, unlike the assumption or speculation of the spire, is told as a fact. There is no debate about it. The psychic imprint left by the Raven Lord here is strong enough to call to the minions of the warp, the echo of the tragedy from long ago. In its own right, this reveals a terrible scar at the core of the Ravenspire, and really adds a great deal of credence to the possibility of a psychic imprint or echo left amongst the eerie. For if it happened within the depths of the Ravenspire, then why not its summit? The reality is the unravelling of Corax's mind, to sorrow and guilt, to the overwhelming emotions and struggle, has clearly left psychic scars at the two locations of his trauma. His chambers amid the eerie, and the forbidden apothecarian within its depths. To any outside the chapter, or perhaps to some within, the only real explanation for these mysterious events is the Sons of the Raven Lord, the Raven Guard chapter, are cursed by the ghosts of history. But as always everyone, what do you think? Do you feel these two dark mysteries of the Ravenspire are in fact psychic imprints left by the trauma of their Primarch? Or do you feel that there's something darker at work? That it could more likely be the work of the ruinous powers? Do you think there's a difference between the two? That the eerie and the apothecarian are not necessarily the same? And given these scars do remain within the Raven Guard home, do you think it could ever play a factor if Corax ever did return? That he may never wish to be reunited with his chapter, or return to Deliverance? Could the reunion of Primarch and chapter actually be the cure for these emotional scars? That only by Corax returning home, reuniting with his sons, can these wounds be laid to rest? And given the fact the First Company has to guard the apothecarian, do you think the Inquisition would ever decide to investigate if knowledge happened to reach their ears? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.